Amazing. Welcome to the amazing, wonderful Sheila Gray. She's a business strategist for female entrepreneurs, a wife, and mum. It's such an honor to have you here. Woo!
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited. Thank you.
Yay! Me too. Okay, so first question. What does self-care mean to you?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Self-care to me means really there's a couple things. Self-care is recognizing that there is no such thing as true balance, right? And so giving ourselves permission to be out of balance sometimes. And when we recognize that we're out of balance, doing something that helps root us and bring us back. So I know there's the traditional, like, go get a facial, have a massage, these things that people do. But sometimes self care is just sitting down for 15 minutes and reading a book, pulling out your Bible, like whatever grounds and roots you in that moment, but recognizing that there's a need for it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
I love it. That's
Thank you.
amazing. You're welcome. So, for yourself, for self care, when you're checking in on what you need in any given moment, are you checking in like emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, or is there sort of a variation?
Literally all of the above. So I think for me, I'll sit down and just kind of feel for a second. And sometimes it is emotional, like my emotions are out of a lot, like I'm, snapping at everybody. That tells me that I'm there. Or sometimes it's that my body is saying, like yesterday, this literally happened to me around 3 o'clock, like, go to sleep. There's nothing else you can do. My body just shut down. So listening to that. Sometimes for me spiritually, it's just not feeling connected. So being a Christian, that's God for me. So there, I think it's just, I've done a lot of work on realizing, like learning how to listen to what it is. And it can be, and it can be all of those things at once. And you just need to go sit at the beach for a whole entire weekend.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, one of my favorite places to
Oh,
rebalance, relax, just yeah.
yes. Listen to the water, like just sit there and look at this vastness of like indefinite, like I don't even infinite. You can see forever. Hold on, I have a shut that down. So I just think you have to check in and see where you're out of balance.
Yeah, I love that. And so, thinking back to your very first experience of checking in with
Ooh.
yourself, do you remember how you started?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's just start with the fact that I've been in therapy like since I was like 19 years old. So we lived overseas and we lived in Israel and my parents separated when we lived in Israel and I was 18. We moved back when I was 21. So I was 21 when I started therapy. And she was the first, I remember sitting in her office and she did the breathing technique, right? Because I would have anxiety attacks. And she's like, we need to check in. And I remember sitting, this is crazy that you bring that up. I remember sitting in her chair and just doing this whole 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then breathing in for 3, holding it for 3, and then breathing out for 3. And I've been practicing that ever since. We forget. I mean, I forget quite often, but that was my first. So I was 21 years old, my first time realizing that there's a way to check in with how you're feeling in a moment to slow that heart rate, to put your feet on the ground, right? Like that type of thing. So
Ooh,
there you go.
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing and being so
Yeah.
open. Thank
Well,
you.
hey, how do we help others if we don't share our stories?
Yeah, yeah, it's so true, so true. And what this whole kind of thing is about,
Yeah.
because each of us, we've got like a unique kind of slant on self-care, unique experiences, stories, and then just sharing it out, gets to
Right.
serve, so many people.
Yes, that's the goal. I love
Yeah.
it.
Oh, so that's your first experience of checking in with yourself. What
Mhm.
is your first self-care experience that you could share with us?
Well, I'm a prior athlete. I don't know if you're forever an athlete. If you were an athlete once, I'm definitely not doing athletic things right now, but um so I used to go on like short. I was always a short distance runner, not long. Like I never did the big thing. But when I would feel overwhelmed, even as a younger, probably middle school age, older child, and I'm a sibling of five, so and the oldest. My mom would say, "Go get your energy out." Like she'd always tell me. So when I would feel overwhelmed, I would just throw on my whatever running shorts at the time and a t-shirt and go run around the block or whatever I needed to do. So I guess that was self-care at that point. I wouldn't have recognized it as self-care. It was just to get my energy out, but that's always stuck with me. Like I'll just go downstairs and get on the Peloton really quickly, right? To to just stop. But yeah, I think my mom was really good at telling us to, and she didn't recognize it probably, but like go get it out. Whatever's going on, go get it out. And that meant exerting some type of energy. And then as a younger adult, my husband used to buy, and this is what I considered when I really was like recognizing self-care. Every anniversary, he would buy me a gift card to my favorite spa, and it would always be like this gift card, and you go to the spa, and I would spend like hours, because when you got to the spa, you could put on your robe and then you could go into the sauna, and then you could go, and they had different areas, and then they had this relaxation area where you sat there and drank cucumber water and read a magazine by a fireplace. So you would go at least an hour before your appointment and do that, and then have the appointment. And then afterwards, I would take this really long rain shower and blow dry my, like I would take forever. So that to me at that time was what we all say is self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. I was right there with you by the fire with your water.
Oh
Hmm.
my gosh. It's just, we have to check out like that sometimes where, and we get so afraid of like the monetary expense or whatever it is, or the guilt sets in. The guilt being a mom, like, oh, I'm leaving the kid. It's so healthy because when you come home so rejuvenated and relaxed and you're nice to everybody again, it's a great thing to do.
Yes. Yes. Remove that guilt. Release, release, release.
Yes.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah, you love it. So, thinking now about
Mhm.
your current self-care, because you've kind of gone through some of your history of self-care, what is one of your favorite self-care activities at the moment?
Ooh, right now in my routine, it's not every day because sometimes I need to sleep in. It is the morning, the quiet of the morning. And we have this front window in our house. We don't have the most beautiful view, but we have a view. So we're up on the hill a little bit. So I will open it and the sun rises that way. And I sit on my couch. My dog usually comes and lays at my feet. And then I just open my Bible and I'll have my little journal and I read, or I just sit there and stare outside. And even if it's 20 minutes, my days that start that way are so different than my days that don't. So I don't beat myself up because I can't do it every day. Sometimes like today, I slept until 8 and it was fantastic. So I don't beat myself up, but that is my favorite self-care routine right now. Besides your typical massage or facial, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's more in my routine.
I love it. And I think also sleep is self-care. So
True.
sometimes that's what we get to pick. I think a lot of people do. They beat up that, oh, I couldn't get up this morning for my self-care. Well, that's because what you needed right then for your self-care was sleep.
Yes, exactly. It's so true. We forget how important that is and how critical it is. The naps, like, so I'm 42 years old, and I always joke with my doc. I have a functional med doctor, and I always joke with him. I'm like, I must be in premenopause or whatever because I just get so tired. He's like, no, you're a mom running business. So in a pandemic, like, have a good time, you know? So the naps are fantastic. Just stop the guilt. Just go do it and sleep. Even if it's a 3-hour nap, the rest will happen later. Like you'll get it done later.
Yeah. And it's so true. And it's like you
Yeah.
said, when we take that moment to actually, rest, recharge, rebalance, we
Yeah.
come back and then we've got like a full cup. We can go serve everyone around us so much better.
Yes. It's really true. And I think as women, um, there's a big campaign going on TikTok even right now. I can see, because, being a business strategist, I have to like be on these social media platforms, but women recognizing that it is part of our nature to think about everything. So like, we know that the dog hasn't been fed yet. We know that when our kids like lunch and what is for lunch, and we think about dinner, it's just part of our nature. We're always planning and thinking about these things. And so just recognizing that that's who we are, and it's totally okay, but it's also okay to just shut it down and say, I need help, or I need the next thing, right? Like, we just need to recognize who we are as people, and women especially. Like, it's been a tough couple of years for a lot of moms, but just really recognizing like, hey, who am I? What are my characteristics? What do I need? And how do I communicate?
Yeah, I love it. And like you said, where do I get support from?
Yes.
So for yourself, do you have like a support network that you go to if something comes up?
Yeah. So my husband is really good. We both work from home right now. So that is a miracle. Like, it's so beautiful because we'll balance. Like, I'm doing this conversation with you, and he'll kind of keep an eye on the kids until he has to leave. Right. So, and I can ask him for help. And this is therapy. This is where my therapist said, you need to start telling him what you need, asking for it versus expecting it to happen. And that's where that whole conversation, men versus women, comes in, right? It's not on purpose. He just doesn't think about, oh yeah, the kids probably need to eat at 5:30. My wife's on a Zoom call, so I'll go take care. It just, sometimes his brain doesn't work that way, compartmentalizes. So I just started asking him. So he's amazing. He will step up, go do whatever. And then for me, it's really girlfriends. My family, everyone works. My parents work. Everyone still works like full time. So, but I have an incredible friend network that I've really been intentional about building. So part of my self-care the last couple of years has been removing people from my life that they're unhealthy, right? But bringing in and forming very purposeful relationships with friends that nurture me, that I can nurture back, that love my kids, that I love like that type of thing. So that's really powerful right now. And it feels amazing to have intentionally done that versus in high school and college, just having as many friends as you can and all the things that come with
Yeah,
adolescence and
exactly.
young adulthood. But now I'm very intentional. So yeah, I have my husband and then a really strong friend network. Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So then thinking, obviously, you're an amazing mom, an amazing businesswoman. How do you celebrate yourself?
Ooh. Well, I think right now it's wine with the girlfriends. We all go celebrate each other. What else do I do to celebrate myself? So sometimes I'll have a little goal. Like, I had a financial goal for my business. I wanted this piece of art from a local artist. She's a mom-owned business. She's an incredible woman. And I decided I wasn't going to buy the art until I hit a specific milestone in my business. So when I did that, it's not framed yet. It's actually rolled up over here because I need to frame it. But I went and bought it. So that was self-care. That was like rewarding myself, right? But I think a lot of times it's just the women in my life right now, just holding each other, and so we celebrate each other. Like, if one of my girlfriends has a big milestone, we go celebrate it. So that's really what I'm doing right now.
That's lovely. And so when you're going out and you're celebrating all together, I guess
Yeah.
that is part of your self-care as well, like the social aspect.
Yes. 100%. Because it's filling my cup, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's self-care. Like, we need that cup to be full. We need to in others, like, we are so good sometimes at overflowing ourselves to where we're just sitting there empty. Like, that's this whole point of this. Like, we're so empty that we can't give anymore. And that's where I realized I was relying so heavily on my own husband to fill that cup, which is impossible for him. That is an impossible expectation to set on your husband. It does not happen. It doesn't work. And that, I think, probably is why some of that intentional friendship building started happening, because I thought, well, I can't do this alone. And I need women who understand where I'm at. all of my friends right now are entrepreneurs. So we all get each other, which is really, I mean, I have friends that are not entrepreneurs, but like this group. But yeah, it fills our cups to be together and celebrate. And then we can go serve again.
And that's the balance that we were speaking about before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because there really is no balance. Like we think this whole work life term, right? The work-life balance. When I was in corporate life, that was it. Like, you need to give your teams work-life balance. How are you cultivating work-life balance? And that was bred into me in my corporate life for so long. And as I became an entrepreneur, I'm like, I can't figure this out. Like, work-life balance, how? Like, I'm thinking about my business all the time. I'm thinking about my clients all the time. Sitting at the dinner table thinking about how to serve that next person that I'm going to talk to. And I was just so consumed. And so I started reading and researching, and it dawned, like, there is no, so there's counterbalancing. There's a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. So he talks about this, and ever since I teach every client, like, you imagine this kind of jagged line, and sometimes it's heavy on business, and then you flip it, and then it'll be heavy on family. And then sometimes it's heavy on family for months because it needs to be. And then you flip it the other way and it's heavy on family again. And we're in the middle. And that's where our self-care comes in, because we have to understand, like, and the guilt and everything that we face as just people, human beings. Yeah. Like, I just don't believe there is balance. I think that we have to understand, once you let go of that expectation, it feels so good.
Yeah, and I love that. And you've brought up expectation like a
Mm-hmm.
good like couple of times. And there's this one phrase that comes to mind. Expectation just builds disappointment,
Yeah.
because when you're expectant of something, you can't be as grateful for it when it happens anyway, because you just expected it. So if you shift it and you go into the gratitude, and you can be
Yeah.
gratitude in every moment for whatever the tiny thing is, then there is no disappointment.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Oh.
Good job.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. It's so true though.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's really hard to kind of accept, because we're kind of brought up, like you said before, in other ways with expectation. And
Mm-hmm.
you're expected to do that, you're expected to do this. And we
Mm-hmm.
we kind of lead up to it, and we're always trying to be the good girl, do the right thing. And I think, again, as with balance, there is no right or wrong thing. There's
Right.
just the thing you do. And that then becomes the thing. So
Yes. Yes. That's 100% right. Like, I mean, well, first of all, gratitude, how, like, let's just bring it back to that. How often we just forget to sit down and be thankful for just this moment. Like, being thankful for this moment to talk to you about self-care and hopefully inspire other people that are right. Like, just be grateful for that moment, and then how that builds on itself. Gratitude. Like, that's so, I can't tell you how many times I forget to just sit down in all the mess and all the things, and not getting this client I hoped I would get or whatever, and being like, wait a minute, I have two healthy kids. We have a roof. We can feed them. I have great friends, right? Gratitude. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
oh, yeah, I love that. And I think like the next step in the self-care and kind of the self-love, which I think go hand in hand,
Mm-hmm.
is to then be grateful to yourself, even though you didn't get the client that you wanted. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
grateful for me right now, exactly as I am, in,
Yeah.
like you said, the mess, however I'm feeling that I am, I'm grateful for me right now. And I love myself right now.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's huge as you start to step into those positions, your
Mm-hmm.
self-care just becomes who you are.
Yeah. And then the example that leads for everybody else too, your children, to see you do that, and then raising them in a place like my 5-year-old daughter, not with as many expectations on herself as I've always had. So yeah, I love that.
So So, because you said obviously when you were young, your mum was really great to tell you guys to just go release, let that
Mhm.
kind of emotion, just let the energy flow through.
Yeah.
Have you shared any self-care things with your kids?
Ooh, yes. Well, we do some of the same, like, okay, your energy's there. Let's get you outside. Let's get you moving. Um, my son has cerebral palsy, very mildly affected. It's his walking. So sometimes he gets sore muscles and stuff. So we do, like, when he's feeling anxious, we'll do a little bit of yoga, just sit there and stretch. Even this morning, he was like, Mom, check out this toe reaching, right? And he gets down and like stretches his toes. Asking for help to me is self-care, like we talked about earlier. So teaching them that when they are getting frustrated, feeling overwhelmed, feeling whatever, or feeling even their own self-doubt, just saying, hey, could you help me? Mom, I'm feeling this way. And communication is self-care. So saying that to me. Um, so we've done a little bit of that type of stuff. Um, even recently, like food has come up, just talking about what we put in our bodies for self-care, right? So my son, when he starts feeling yucky and heavy, well, what have you been eating in the last 24 hours? And it's really funny. We're not trying to talk about it in a sense of like, well, you'll get overweight or anything like that. It's more food as fuel and how important that is for us. So I guess now, I mean, I never thought about the fact that I'm teaching them self-care until you asked that question, but we do a lot of those types of things for them. Anxiety is very prevalent in both my husband and I and our families. And so we've been conscious of that, knowing that coming into having children, we neither of us was really like we didn't talk about that as young children with our parents, having the crying because I couldn't, like having a total tantrum because I couldn't find a pair of shoes. That was anxiety that was sitting inside of me. So we do talk about those type of practices to help eliminate that as much as possible or alleviate the symptoms of anxiety. So that's where self-care comes in for our kiddos for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, amazing. Woo!
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, you get to celebrate that because you didn't
Yeah.
even realize.
I didn't. It really did until you asked the question. I'm like, oh, we do self-care stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's really cool. Oh, now we can like we can talk about it though. I think now the next step would be talking about, hey, this is Max, this is self-care. This is taking care of you and putting your body and your mental state and your physical, whatever's going on, like making it important and okay to take care of. Right.
yeah.
So that's going to be the next phase. Thank you thank you.
Yeah,
It's like
my
I'm getting a
pleasure.
Liz session right now.
Woo! Yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that's the other thing underneath self-care is believing that you're worthy of taking the time for self-care.
Yes.
So in doing that with the kids, then you're showing that. You're like, you
Yes.
are amazingly important because obviously they
Yes.
know to you they are, and it's instilling that in themselves.
Exactly. Brilliant. Okay. So I'm just going to have a little note over here that says self-care chat with kids. There. We're just going to spread it on.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, let me know how it goes. I'm
I
excited.
will. I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think because with my two youngest, like the other week in vacation, we did some mirror work. So we just all three of us stood there together. We all looked at ourselves in the mirror and we were like, I love you and you're lovely. You're lovely and I love myself. And just doing that kind of like self-care
Yeah.
affirmation, just to start building that in. Because certainly, yeah, go.
Well, I was going to say, because how uncomfortable is it if you haven't been doing that as
Mm,
an adult to look in the mirror and say that? It's very uncomfortable.
yeah,
So if we can teach our children to look at themselves that way, it's it it's a life-changing, like it's a skill for life. And then when they're not giving themselves self-care or when someone isn't treating them well, they recognize that faster, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
their worth and their value is there. Oh, I love that you guys did that.
Aw. Yeah, and I think it's like you said, like our kids get to grow up knowing more than we did
Yeah.
because it's more available now. Like our parents, bless them, did the best they could do with what they knew, and now we know more. We get to do
Yeah.
better.
Exactly. Isn't that the goal to always you want you look at your children and this is a life this has probably been for eternity. We look at our children and we think I want them to have a better life than I did. I want them to do better than I have. That's the goal for your kids. So, yeah, okay. Now we got to do mirror work too.
You don't got to.
I get
It's
to.
something for in the future. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I love
whenever
it.
you want to. But it was just a giggle, because
Mhm.
quite often if we put the music on and we're dancing and there's a mirror, they love dancing and looking at themselves in the mirror. And so it's just
Yeah.
taking it like that next step. And I went, oh, I've got this thing that I've been doing. Let's do it together. um
Yeah.
and it supports because my 9-year-old, she lives with her dad most of the time, so it then gives her that bit of extra support there. So I said, you
Yeah.
do this, and me and Avi are doing it here, so though we're not together, we're still doing the same things, and just remember we love you then. So I think it just,
Yes.
yeah, it helps with those things.
That's beautiful.
Super cute.
Mhm. I agree.
Oh, thank you. So,
Yes.
is there anything else you would like to share with the audience?
Um, Man, we covered a lot. I think the last thing I would say is it's okay when it gets hard, and it's okay if you forget to do self-care for a little while, right? Like there's no, like you said before, there is no right or wrong. It's what is best for us. And the counterbalancing piece, sometimes we will be on that self-care train and we will have great routines around it. And we will sit down at 6 in the morning and do our journal, whatever it is. And sometimes it won't happen at all for a good 60 days, but it's recognizing, like you said, and just giving yourself the permission to sit down and look back and be like, okay, I got it. I'm missing this part of my life. Like I need to bring it back in, and it's okay. So just recognizing that we ebb and flow in life. It is life, and to not beat yourself up around it.
I love
Yeah.
it. And then just reach out if you're looking for support on anything. If
Yes.
something feels
Yes.
too hard, get help because there's so many people like available
Yes.
now.
Yes. Exactly.
Ah,
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yes.